What if the future Pirate King never set sail? What if Luffy wasn't born? How would the Grand Line change? In this video, we're exploring an alternate world where Luffy never existed. Who would step up in his place? What key events would be different? And finally, who would become the Pirate King? This isn't about one missing person, it's about changing the whole world of One Piece. Let's dive in and see what would happen. Without Luffy, the East Blue would have remained relatively quiet. Imagine East Blue without his boundless energy and the unstoppable drive that set everything in motion. In this alternate timeline, the Straw Hat crew never forms. Without Luffy's influence, the people who would have been his crewmates follow very different paths. Zoro, for example, might never break free from his imprisonment in Shellstown. Without Luffy there to save him, he could remain under Captain Morgan's harsh rule, or worse, abandon his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman and never even cross paths with Mihawk. Nami, meanwhile, would likely still be trapped under Arlong's control, forced to gather money to buy her village's freedom with no one to intervene. Her dream of navigating the world's seas would remain out of reach, leaving her bound to a life of hardship. Sanji, isolated at Baratie, might never have the opportunity or motivation to search for the All Blue. Without Luffy's encouragement, he could remain confined to the restaurant, abandoning the dream that once gave him purpose. Next, we enter Skypiea, a hidden sky island with its own fierce conflicts. But in a world without Luffy, the events of the Sky Island arc take a very different path. With no Straw Hat crew to challenge him, Ino's iron grip over Skypiea remains firm. The Shandians, who have long fought to reclaim their sacred land, are left without hope or outside support. Their rebellion continues in small bursts, but ultimately fails to dislodge Ino from his position as the self-declared god of Skypiea. Meanwhile, Skypiea itself stays isolated, unknown to the world below. Luffy's arrival on Sky Island was a rare event, driven by sheer luck and determination. Without his crew, it's unlikely that another pirate crew would stumble upon Skypiea by accident. This leaves Ino's tyrannical rule unchallenged, allowing him to pursue his grand plan. Eventually, Ino completes the Arc Maxim, his massive flying ship. With no one there to stop him, he sets his sight on the moon, aiming to leave Skypiea in a state of disorder as he departs. The citizens of Skypiea are left with no leader, no stability, and no hope of change. This raises an important question. Could another pirate crew ever discover Skypiea, or would Ino's tyranny and his mysterious departure leave the island hidden and abandoned forever? Now let's enter Water 7 and Enies Lobby, where some of the most dangerous players in the world come into action. Without the Straw Hats, the fate of Nico Robin and the secret she carries would look very different. With no crew to rely on, Robin remains in constant hiding, controlled by the world government, and forced to continue her life of servitude. Her knowledge of the poneglyphs and ancient weapons makes her a valuable asset to the government, and without anyone like Luffy or the Straw Hats to help her, she has no choice but to comply. This keeps her trapped, never able to search for true freedom. Meanwhile, Frankie still encounters CP9, but without the motivation provided by the Straw Hats, he lacks the drive to fight for the Pluton blueprints. Instead of protecting them, he might give up the plans, knowing he lacks allies against CP9's strength. As a result, CP9 successfully secures the Pluton blueprints, handing over this power to the world government. With the blueprints in hand, the world government's influence increases, giving them potential access to an ancient weapon capable of destruction on a massive scale. Without the Straw Hats to protect these secrets, there's no one to stop them from seizing power. The question now is, with no one else aware of these dangerous plans, who, if anyone, could stop the world government from wielding Pluton's power? Next, we reach Sabaody Archipelago, a volatile hotspot where tension among pirates, the world nobles, and the oppressed fishmen are at an all-time high. Without the Straw Hats, the situation plays out in a much darker way. Without Luffy's bold interference at the human auction house, Kami remains trapped as a slave, and no one disrupts the cruel business of auctioning people. The other supernovas, pirates who later prove crucial in the New World, lack any unified stand against the corruption and oppression on Sabaody. Luffy's actions at Sabaody inspired other pirates to challenge authority, but without him, the supernovas don't have a clear example to follow. As a result, they fail to create any real momentum and struggle to navigate through the heavily guarded Red Line to enter the New World. The absence of Luffy's influence means that discrimination against the fishmen intensifies, and Fisher Tiger's dream of equality between humans and fishmen fades. The fishmen are left even more isolated, their fight for freedom growing more difficult. This impacts the larger movement against oppression, making it tougher for the Revolutionary Army to rally support from marginalized groups. Without the hope that Luffy's bold actions inspired, the oppressed have very few ways to unite or resist. This raises a critical question. Without a leader to bring them together, would the world's outcasts and revolutionaries ever find the strength to fight back against the powers that control them? Now let's look at the Marineford War, one of the most pivotal battles in One Piece. In a world without Luffy, Ace's capture and execution unfold in a completely different way. Without Luffy's intervention, there is no last-minute rescue attempt to disrupt the Marines' plans. Ace, captured by the Marines and set for execution, has no younger brother leading a bold charge to free him. As a result, the Whitebeard pirates enter the war without the added strength and motivation that Luffy's presence inspired. This weakens their ability to push through Marineford's defenses, ultimately dooming their mission to save Ace. Whitebeard still fights fiercely, but without Luffy's energy in the mix, the battle against the Marines is even more difficult. Whitebeard, aging and severely wounded, falls during the war. This leaves a massive power gap that Blackbeard, lurking in the shadows, is quick to exploit. Without Luffy there to disrupt his plans, Blackbeard moves even faster to establish himself as one of the most feared and dominant forces in the New World. Ace's tragic end, combined with Whitebeard's fall, accelerates Blackbeard's rise. The New World, lacking the stabilizing force of the Whitebeard pirates, falls into chaos and Blackbeard's influence spreads rapidly, with no one capable of challenging his growing empire. The question looms, without Luffy and Whitebeard to balance the scales, can the New World ever find peace, or will Blackbeard's reign of terror go completely unchecked? Moving on to Dressrosa, we find the kingdom locked under the grip of a powerful warlord. But without Luffy and the Straw Hats, the balance of power in the New World tips heavily in the favor of the Yonko and their allies. With no interference from Luffy, Doflamingo's rule over Dressrosa goes unchallenged. He maintains his iron grip over the island and continues running his operations in the underground world. His powerful network stays intact, providing him with resources and connections that strengthen his position. This stability allows him to keep producing weapons and the artificial devil fruits, Smiles, that are sold to Kaido, feeding Kaido's army and expanding his power even further. Meanwhile, Kaido and Big Mom, two of the most dangerous Yonko, benefit from Doflamingo's unchallenged control. With a steady supply of Smiles and other resources, they become even harder to oppose. Without Luffy or anyone disrupting this system, small pirate crews and revolutionaries have little chance of rising up or gaining influence. The Yonko solidify their dominance, leaving no room for new threats. In this world, the New World becomes almost fully dominated by Kaido, Big Mom, and the other Yonko, forming a system that leaves few opportunities for other pirates to thrive. The question is clear. Without Luffy's actions to shake up the system, would a new pirate king ever have a chance? Or would the Yonko reign without challenge, holding all the power in the New World? Finally, we look at the ultimate question. Who becomes the pirate king in a world without Luffy? With no Straw Hat crew to stand in their way, the power dynamics of the New World shift, and someone else would rise to claim the title of Pirate King. Without Luffy's drive for freedom and adventure, Blackbeard, driven by ambition and cunning, is the most likely candidate to take the title of Pirate King. Blackbeard's ability to manipulate people, form alliances, and ruthlessly pursue his goals puts him in a prime position to dominate. His rise to power would likely be swift and brutal, as he's already shown to be willing to destroy anyone who stands in his way, including former allies like Whitebeard. Without Luffy to challenge him, Blackbeard has little to stop him from claiming the One Piece and the title of Pirate King. However, Blackbeard's path to the throne would be far different from Luffy's. Where Luffy sought adventure and freedom to live on his own terms, Blackbeard is primarily motivated by power and control. He would see the One Piece not as a symbol of freedom, but as a tool to increase his own influence and solidify his control over the Grand Line. The treasure would likely remain hidden, not because it is unreachable, but because Blackbeard's pursuit would be more focused on dominating the world, rather than uncovering its mysteries. And there you have it, folks. In this world, the One Piece's true nature and meaning might never come to light. With no Luffy to inspire a new generation of pirates, the world falls under the rule of dangerous figures like Crocodile, Enel, Doflamingo, and Blackbeard. Pirates would no longer seek freedom and adventure, but power and control. The New World becomes a darker place, and the dream of becoming Pirate King shifts from one of hope and freedom to one of tyranny and conquest. Blackbeard, with his unmatched ambition and thirst for power, emerges as the dominant force in this version of the world. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more what-if scenarios. Next time, we'll dive into what if the Straw Hats were villains. Don't miss it! Are you curious about how strong Straw Hat crew members can be? Well, that's the subject of this other video. In the meantime, click on this cool anime video that's appearing on your screen. Go ahead, click it.